So on Sunday, I'm going to be answering the question, how do you win the inner battle? And so I'm reaching into my archives for this conversation with you to talk about that inner battle, that outer battle, that battle, and we're going to use David and Goliath, one of the best known stories from the Bible. David is sometimes associated with the underdog. 5 foot something David took on 9 foot 6 inch Goliath. Okay, that would be a big size difference. The spear that Goliath threw was 225 pounds, and for us athletes or ex-athletes, you have the bar, then you have 2 big plates, and then 2 more big plates. And that's how they measure strength for a college athlete. How many times can you bench 225? And somebody who can do it 35 times is really strong. Goliath throws a stick that weighs 225 pounds. Okay? So just to put a little gym into the conversation, that's how it works. He was a warrior from his youth. And so, no matter how long you've been a Christian, in your journey, you're always going to find opposition in your life. And that's just one of those weird things. And I notice the Christian who hasn't dove in deep, the Christian who might be new to their faith, the Christian who's not all the way in, when they get really frustrated when something goes bad, something goes wrong, why does God allow this? If He's going to allow this, then I don't see what the purpose of having a relationship with God is all about. And you're like, oh my. In this world you will have tribulations. Jesus told us that, and that is our experience. Okay? And it doesn't really matter how much faith you have. Lots of faith, little faith, you're going to have giants that you have to face. Okay, it's not the question of are you going to face the giants? It's how you're going to face the giants, because they are going to show up. Okay, they come after your family, they come after your household, they come after your marriage, they come after your career, they come after your health, your kids, your finances, your soul. These are all areas where the giants like to show up. And they come in different shapes and sizes. I'll never forget my first bully at school. She was mean, okay? And I had the cancer scare. I've had the job issue. I've had the financial fears. I've had, the bad habit that you keep trying to get rid of, and you continue to think that way or say that thing or do that thing. You're old age. Who'd have ever thought that would be such a giant? I can remember that I was faster at 37 than I was at 38. I could see the difference. Or the difference between the gym, 53 and 54. Strength was different. And now I got this elbow and that shoulder and the lower back, and this knee seems to be bothering me. And did I mention my feet? You know what I'm talking about. At the nursing home, they were all having a conversation. And the one man says, my arms are so weak I can barely hold this cup of coffee. Another said, my cataracts are so bad I can't even see my coffee. Another said, I can't turn my head because my arthritis in my neck is killing me. Another said, my blood pressure pills make me dizzy. Somebody else winced, I guess this is the price for getting old. And finally, this one woman cheerfully said, well, at least we can still drive. The physical ailments, the retirement, the parenting, the teenagers, the heartbreaks, the loneliness, the debt, the issues of anger, and oh my gosh, all of these are different kinds of giants. Okay? And a giant is a person or thing of great size that stands in your way. Now, what's interesting is when you look up the definition in the dictionary of giant, it comes from a mythological race of huge human beings that war with the gods. Even the dictionary recognizes the spiritual battle that giants pose in our lives. Well, for David, the giant is called Goliath. Goliath has been insulting the people of God for the last 40 days. I was at the place where the battle happened. And it's not this huge, great big mountain. You could probably run up it pretty easily and come down and run across and run up the other side. So on this side were the Philistines, on that side are the Israelites, and Goliath would come out on the ridge and taunt the Israelites every day for 40 days. Okay? Striking fear into their hearts. Realize he's 9'6". Okay? One time I stood next to Wilt Chamberlain, 7'1". Oh my. He was big. Okay? Add a couple of feet and a few inches to him. You start to get the picture. All right? Well, these ongoing taunts happen in our society, and these taunts are aimed at Christians. The politically correct world says you're not tolerant. The politically correct world says you don't love people, even though our word is love. Christians get taunted by today's society. And here's the deal. There's a cosmic battle going on between the forces of good and evil. And it's played out in our personal lives. Remember on Sunday I said those roadside issues seem to matter in our eternal journey? Exactly. Okay? The battle between good and evil happens in our personal lives. And giants do a lot of shouting, and they usually taunt us and, you're not qualified to do this job. You don't have what it takes. You can't save your marriage. You're not good enough. You won't be able to pay your bills. You're losing your kids. Your life is a mistake. Some of us have heard many of these taunts over the journey of life. And they have this way of penetrating our thoughts that then kind of put a shadow over our hearts. And suddenly we forfeit our joy because we're listening to that voice. Giants alter us from within. That bitterness, that unsettledness, we get paralyzed with fear. Giants can control our mental peace. Today, I had a lot of angst in my head. So I sat down, pulled out my prayer sheet, and I just stayed there and I listed every angst I had. Then I paused, and then there was a few more, and I listed them too. I feel like I got it all out. Then I moved to a few things that I was thankful for. And then I pivoted into what I was aiming at, what I believed about God, the biggest lessons that I learned in 2023, and it shaped the end of my prayer. How did I do it? I wrote out a prayer. Bullet point, okay? Penmanship doesn't, go well with, I don't know that God could read it, so. In the inner battle, it's a tough place. Okay, this one woman, Florence Chadwick, she was going to swim from Catalina Island to the California coast. This is back in 1952. It's a distance of 26 miles. Has anybody ever been to Catalina Island? I grew up in L.A., so Catalina Island, I've been there. Okay. Well, the day she was swimming, a heavy fog rested over the waters, and so she swam, not being able to see the shore, not being able to measure, not being able to comprehend the distance, and finally she said, "I'm done. Take me out of the water." And everybody was scared because she was only 300 yards away from the shore. And she said, "All I could see was hopelessness." And so, I think sometimes we have to win this battle because we have a God who brings hope. One of my favorite prayers is, "Lord, the hope that I have in you to get me through my situation." That's one of my prayers. And you know what? I'm going to list it out there. And so the question for you and me is, how do you see your challenges? Is it an insurmountable obstacle or is it an opportunity? Okay? You're not going to be able to avoid Goliath. But actually, the Goliaths are part of God's spiritual growth plan. Suddenly, when you know that that Goliath is part of my spiritual growth plan, it changes him or her. Suddenly, oh, I need this so I can expand my faith, get closer to God, see His power released in my life. Okay? I'll give you an example. If you're a fear-based person, you need to decide, I'm going to face this fear with faith. And then when the waves of fear come towards you, you stand there believing that you belong to God, that God's going to fight your battles, that He's involved in the situation, and you're expecting a good outcome. And you stand there, and that's what it means to apply your faith. Okay? And I just want you to hear me. Now we're going to get into David and Goliath. Today's struggles can be the foundation of tomorrow's successes. Today's struggles can be the foundation for tomorrow's struggles. Well, King Saul is king, and he stands head and shoulders above everybody else. Remember when he was called to be king, and they found him behind the rack of clothes? Head and shoulders, he's bigger than everybody else. God has already won a victory on his behalf. So, if anybody should have fought the battle against Goliath, it should have been the big guy, King Saul, because he's big and he's seen the power of God move in his life. And by the way, the promise of God is that we would be empowered to succeed. You know, maybe, I don't know what happened to Saul. Maybe he never really understood that the power was about God moving through him. The victory was about God, not about his power. Maybe he forgot. Sometimes we forget things that we're embarrassed to admit. His eyes were on the problem, the 9'6" guy, not on God's words. Okay? Whatever it was, he's weak, he's neutralized, he's compromising. He's not facing the foe allowed by God to grow his faith. Now David comes on the scene. And he sees the situation completely different. You know, David steps in. His brothers are in the battle. You know, there's no battle yet, you know, and his brothers are in the ranks, and they start insulting him. And first thing David says is, "What's with this uncircumcised guy?" Okay, attacks his manhood, all right? But actually, it's shorthand for somebody who does not have a relationship with the living God. Why are we who belong to the living God allowing the guy that has no relationship with God to bring fear into our lives? See, David sees the threat through spiritual eyes. A mere mortal versus the living God. I mean, what is a 9'6" man compared to the God who made the world? And those who live without God, they miscalculate their problem. Okay? Do you see the size of that guy? David's attitude is, oh, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. All right? He measures life by faith and the size of his resource and the size of his soul. And suddenly you and I are invited to have a greater soul, a deeper soul, a wider soul. This is what this is invited for you and me. You can demolish strongholds in your mind and in other people's lives by bringing your faith to your battle or somebody else's battle. Yesterday, I get done with the funeral, and this guy says, "Can I talk to you afterwards?" Had some multiple battles going on, and I was able just to ba-boom, 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 help him overcome, release, be victorious, free his mind. Okay? That's what you and I get to do, be avenues of helping people out. And David's not coming at Goliath with human weapons. He says, "I come to you in the name of the Lord, the God you have defiled." He doesn't say, "Okay, man, I got the 5 smoothest stones you've ever seen that I'm going to drop right into your forehead." No. He's coming in the name of the Lord. And for all of David's attributes, he's a warrior, he's a shepherd who cares for sheep, okay? He's a musician, he's handsome. Okay, the most impressive trait is he's a man after God's own heart. And, I'm going to sit down on this one and say, guys, your relationship with the Lord at this point should be falling in love with this amazing God, getting to familiar with the way He loves you and cares for you, or heals you, or brings you out of a pit, or keeps His hand upon you and answers prayers. And there's just so much amazing angles about your relationship with God that should define the way you see the world around you. You should know that your identity is, as a child of God, I've received Christ's perfection, and God smiles on me, shines on me, wants to bless me, and wants to move through me. And you should just know that about yourself. Okay? David, he believes intrinsically in the God he worships. He trusts God to act. And this is a biggie, anticipating that God is going to answer your prayer. There's a lot of times I'll throw up a prayer and I'll go, wait a minute, that's offered without any faith. Let me bring it back down, work it over, and now lift it up with faith. These are not words that I'm telling you. This is actually the stuff I do and that you're supposed to do. These are not just happy ways of re-looking at the situation. I grab the lack of faith, I run it through who God is and what He says, and then I lift it back up. So think about whatever situation you're working on right now in your heart. This is the way to do it. And here's what we learned. A chapter before Goliath, in 1 Samuel 16:13, the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon David from that day forward. So he gets the Spirit of God. He's now operating in the Spirit of God. God's Spirit is His motivating power. And I don't want you to underestimate the Spirit of God. When it was taken away from Saul, an evil spirit took its place. Okay? And it's interesting. Saul had, angst, anxiety, lack of wholeness in his emotional being, and David would play music, and that would bring peace. The guy with the Spirit of God was able to bring peace to the guy that used to have the Spirit of God. I want you to see yourself as the person who can bring peace, bring the Word, bring the hope, bring the presence of Jesus to somebody else. Now, where did David get all this? Well, he spent a lot of time with God. And that's where your relationship with God gets established. I'm a little bit surprised at how many people will say they don't have a prayer life. And as a busy man, I know how hard it is to have a prayer life. But it's in the prayer life that the relationship gets developed. It's in the going slow through the scripture reading that the Lord pops off of a verse or a 3-word, statement. It's you intentionally seeking Him. The relationship gets established. And it's out of that alone time that we acquire spiritual power. Example, when a lion and a bear attacked, the Lord empowered David to protect his flock and kill the animal. Okay, a lion and a bear. This guy got empowered by the Spirit of God and defeated these wild animals. He's fierce about his flock. And out of those conversations in the wilderness with God, this is where that power, that friendship, that love, that relationship took place. I want to point out something just incredible here. David was prepared for the Goliath moment. Now, do you think that he got up on that random Tuesday thinking, well, today I think I'll take down Goliath, the 9'6" guy? No. He just taken the elements that his father said, take these to your brothers and see what's going on with the war. So he shows up. He has no idea that Goliath and him are about to have a battle. But here's what's amazing. It was his regular time in the presence of God, praying, praising, meditating, that prepared him. There's a fun story. We had the national championship game in the college football last night. I was rooting for the wrong team. But one day, Michigan State beat UCLA in a last-minute field goal in the Rose Bowl, and it was a last-minute field goal, and the guy that kicked the field goal, he wears glasses, but he didn't have his glasses on. So, he kicks the field goal, comes off, and the coach says, where's your glasses? He goes, oh, I lost them. He goes, well, how could you kick the winning field goal if you can't even see? He goes, I couldn't see the goalposts. I looked over at the referee to see him put his arms up. That's how I know we won. But then as he thought about it, all those times he practiced that kick, all those times it got cemented into his DNA, all those mundane, routine, regular practices, he was able and willing to just relax. I don't have my glasses, but I know how to kick the ball correctly. Now let's put it into your battle. All those prayers, all those times in scriptures, all those sermons that you put up with me, okay? It's creating a discipline, a daily routine for you to see God move in your life. Okay? You can't prepare to fight your giant at the last minute. You got to be prayed up, moody. Oh, we think that the ship might be going down. You need to go pray. He goes, I'm prayed up. He's already had his devotions. He doesn't need to go running back to his cabin. I'm ready for the moment here. And so I think that we never know when our giants are going to pop up, but they are going to pop up. And to be ready is to have your regular spiritual routine in place. What's really weird is sometimes you can't lean on yesteryear's faith for today's problems. Now, we remember yesteryear's God showing up, which is inspiring. But sometimes, remember when the disciples come and say, hey, how come we couldn't cast out this demon? And he says, because this kind requires prayer and fasting. Sometimes you got to be prepared for the big demons, the big giants. And that means you got to be prepared ahead of time for the negativity coming your way. And I think it's practicing our faith in the lesser battles that helps us win the bigger battles. Those everyday faithfulnesses. We sometimes flunk the big giants because we fail to fight the lesser battles. What does it matter if I, let my mind go in these places? What does it matter if I do a little gossip? What does it matter if I drop the F-bomb here or there? What does it matter? But these little places, actually, that little discipline to change my wording and to not let my mind go there and to hold my tongue and to think in terms of being compassionate. Winning those battles helps you when the big ticket items show up. And friends, sometimes it's not the big sins that trip us up. It's the people around us, okay? Distractions, like David's brothers insulting him. Who are you? Okay, discouragement. Wow. What does King Saul say? You're just a kid. Goliath, you're a youth and you want to come against me? You can feel all the discouragement. You can see how people are pointing out the inadequacies. And have you noticed it's the people in your life that sometimes are the most difficult? People closest to you that like to point out your flaws or don't fill you up with hope, but, are real. I'm just trying to keep it real here. Well, but no, I need faith. I need a faith friend, not a real friend, a realist friend. Now, I need someone that says, wow, that's a real situation. You better be prayed up. I think sometimes it's the people around us that Satan uses to whisper into our ears, you can't do it. And if you listen to it, he will derail your destiny. What if the brothers and Saul and Goliath all convinced David, you know what, never mind. I can't do it. Not going to try. He would have never stepped into his destiny. All right? And how many of us live cowardly, unproductive spiritual lives because we let our future be redirected by voices that we should not listen to? That voice of your father or mother who said those things over you long ago and shaped your journey through life. If you're still alive, you can say, I'm going to undo that script and listen to God's script, who made me, who saved me, who has a plan for my life. That's the voice that will now determine my forward journey. Not my spouse's or my mother's or my father's negative words or that teacher's negative words. Okay? This is important that you hear me. George Reeves, he was the original Superman. They told him, you're so identified with Superman, you'll never get another job. So he believed that voice and went into the telephone booth and killed himself. Okay? He could have showed up in a different suit. Okay? And his real acting skills would have been visible and he could have continued on his career, but he let the wrong voice speak. And really, friends, I want you to hear me. Giants don't make or break us. They merely show us who we already are. David was already a hero the day he killed Goliath. It was just simply exposed. Okay? Goliath showed who David already was. And you got to like David's attitude. Okay? He's anointed as the next king. But when he gets done killing Goliath, you know where he goes? Back to tending the sheep. Isn't that amazing? I would have made the, multi-town tour. Just want you to know, I took Goliath down, okay? Did you hear about what happened, Yeah, it was me. You were out, yeah. No. He goes, hey, man, I got to get back and take care of the sheep or I'm going to get in trouble. He just took down Goliath and he's afraid of getting a spanking from his dad. Okay, he's humble. And the point of this story is, it isn't that little people can do great things if they try. It isn't that weak people can overcome the strong if they put their mind to it. No, it's that there is a God who is for you and will show up when you anticipate it, expect it, and step forward to honor His name. And in a world where everybody is dishonoring His name, and we don't even have to go out into the main culture. People who like to push Jesus around. And we need to stand up and go, you know what? I don't know why they even invite you to this Thanksgiving dinner. Because you have no gratitude in your heart, and you're beaten up on God. And I think you need to understand who God is and why we thank Him. And what if we actually talk to Uncle Harold like that? I've gone out to dinner where people will start ripping in. I'm like, you know what? Hold on a second. I don't care what professor you are quoting to discredit God. I've hung out with professors. And believe me, their limited knowledge is very apparent. And you're talking about things that you don't understand. Oh, all of a sudden, they back up. And then you keep going. With grace, but boldness. There is a God. This is how He operates. This is what He does. And the reason why people don't believe Him is because they've never opened their hearts up to Him. Be bold enough to have conversations with your friends and your people that are willing to push Jesus around. Push back a little bit with love, but with boldness. Christians, we're allowing Jesus to be ushered out of our society because we're not standing up and stepping into the power that's available to us. Okay? And how about as parents? We want to send our kids to the best academic experience that they can have, right? And they go to an organization called the university where it is an anti-God education, and then we're all confused why our kids jettison their faith when they come out. You're like, oh, what happened? Okay? Our spouses. We'd like to think, well, my spouse is there to meet my needs, and I'm not feeling very fulfilled here. No, you got married so that you can meet that spouse's need. You don't see people in terms of what they can do for you. You see the people around you in terms of what I can bring, how I can bring God to them. Our careers. We want to obtain the highest standard of finances that we possibly can. Standard of living. But no, you have a job to empower your life to live with and for God. See how you can change your parenting, change your significant other, change your career so that you now understand your purpose in life. And that's to bring Jesus to the world around us. And until you understand it, you're going to be one of Saul's soldiers, afraid of Goliath, easily overcome by fear. Fear is going to be your automatic response to a threatening situation. And you're never going to see the power of God. Okay? Well, remember that passage where God tells the king, the battle's not yours, it's mine. That's what you and I have to remember. You belong to Him, so that automatically makes your battle His battle. You have to remember the size of your God, not the size of your giant. Okay? You and God can actually be quite huge. Greater is He that is in you than he that is in the world. I can do all things through God who strengthens me. Not by might, not by power, but by my Spirit, says the Lord. And there's just 3 Bible verses to put everything into context. So what giant has been towering over you? And this is a personal reflection, introspection, examination. Sometimes, you're looking back at life and you feel like it's too late. I had a 30-year-old tell me the other day, it's too late. I missed my opportunity. I'm like, I didn't get started till I was 30. Okay? Do you see how people are programmed to think incorrectly and see life wrong? And I think you and I, we have to just see things correctly. And right now, I want you to see your Goliath in terms of a defeated foe because you belong to the living God. All right? Well, I got a lot more to say here. I will say this. David fights off a lion. In 1 Peter 5:8, the devil is a roaring lion seeking someone to devour. You, if you resist him, defeat him. David beats a bear. We have battles against the bear market that's promising to destroy your economy. Your economy goes through the household of God and the blessings of God. Okay? So, I guess what I want you to know is, does your heart move with faith that God's going to move? Or are you standing back in fear, watching other people step forward, defeating Goliaths, and missing out on that great, incredible experience of Almighty God defeating your foes? Amen.